Welcome to part 23. So you may notice there's a level here and a level here. So I'm just making sure that tail plane is level and in line with the middle wing. This is also part of the angle of incidence, which I have done a little bit of sanding, light sanding there, and it's just dropped nicely. So I am going to go with that. Strangely enough, there is a slight gap here. I suppose I'll just have to either wear it or put a little piece over there. I don't quite know how or why that is there or what its purpose is, but you know, maybe it'll come out in the wash. So I am going to glue that on. Now in the book it says to cover the underneath where the undercarriage goes, and I don't particularly want to do that right now because that still gives me access to the servos, even more access to the servos, so I can get the horns absolutely spot on here. And once I'm happy with that, I will then cover that part where the servos are and then put the wheels on, and I might even put the tail skid on. I just think that's better for me, and that's the way I feel about it. So I'm going to glue that on now. Okay, so I have finally got the linkage on and adjusted it so we're all nice and level here and here, and there you are. That's your up, that's your down. Of course you want more down than up, trust me on that one. And if I need to, I've got the trim anyway. I mean, at this angle here you can see it's absolutely flat. It's probably needs a little bit of touch up on the trim perhaps, I suspect, but let's see how it handles in flight. But I'm quite happy with that, so I think it's time for the rudder. And there you go, ready to glue in the rudder. So what I've done is I've made sure the tail plane is level, and I've got myself a set square, and I have got my normal level there. And before I wick that in, I'm making absolutely sure that's perpendicular. So that's what I suggest, and then we're going to wick some glue in here, and then I'll show you the results. Okay, so we've got that rudder all in and operating, and as you can see it's got a full throw there, and I'll just show you the way I've done the linkage. That's how I've done it. So all the adjustment is really at the servo, and I have no issues or problem doing that. Just making sure that it's all right at this point. So quite happy with that. Everything's perpendicular and straight and level, and everything's working. Okay, so job is a good one. So I will now proceed to carry on to the book with the undercarriage. This is the only part really I sort of jumped, because I did say I would go with the book, but I just think that the linkage being proposed is not, well, it's not right for me. There you go. What you want to do is up to you. Okay, so to the undercarriage. Ailerons. Okay, I've just got the ailerons working. Plenty of movement there. And I didn't do it to the book because I think the book version is, well, a bit pants. What I did is I made a piece of metal, or a piece of rod. It's 0.32 gauge in imperial. Don't know what it is in metric, millimeter I think. Was it 0.9 millimeters I think in metric? And I just made it the right size and then put the caps on. So I'll show you what the caps look like. So there you go, that's what they look like, and it took me about 10 minutes. So there you are, and if I need to adjust it I can just undo the caps, take it out and make another one either longer or shorter. It's just, there you go, it's the easiest method I can think of. So that's the ailerons, and just to prove they are working again, there you go. I haven't glued in the hinges just yet, that's why they sort of moving out a bit, but that's because I wanted to make sure that they were correct first before I glued that in, because once they're glued in, they're glued in. So that's another Barron's topical tip. So we have ailerons, we have elevators, and we have rudder, and we have a motor. So all good there. And now for the next bit. Getting near the end now, so put the tail skid on. There's a little slot there, you can just locate it with your nail, puncture it with a knife, just expose a little bit of balsa for this part here, 2-part epoxy, stick it in, leave it alone, make sure it's nice and straight, leave it alone, let it go off. The wheels, the undercarriage have already been placed in there once before as a test further in the build, so it should go in exactly as before, except the only difference is this time is that you've got the winglet on it and it's all covered over. Now you should have already got to this stage with the wheels anyway, so all you've got to do now is get this little tiny bead that goes in there, put some epoxy on the rod, make sure the wheel's on, and put some epoxy on the rod, and then put the bead onto it and make sure the wheel can rotate. And then it's down to the wheel covers. So I'm just about to do that now. And so to finish things off, I'll just put the knife around the wheel hubs there, glued them into the star shape, put them on, stayed there, no problem at all, good as gold. So I think we'll be moving on pretty soon. See you in the next bit. Okay, balancing. There's a joke in there, but I'm going to resist it. Now, it's a bit humorous, I think, that they have a section in the book on page 62, balance the model, and they don't actually tell you where the centre of gravity is. They say, look it up on the drawing. Well, you know, all they've got to do is just put CG 37.5 millimeters from leading edge. Job done. So anyway, the balance point, or the centre of gravity, is from the top wing, leading edge, 37.5 millimeters back towards the tail. Now what I do is, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this too well, I use these markers. Can you see that marker there? You can buy a pack of these markers, they're about £1.50 stickers on eBay. That's your centre of gravity. They come in different colours. I've chosen red, obviously. You put that on your balance points or your centre of gravity, and you know where you are at all times. So what they say is, on the prototype, so that's their get out clause, they had to use 3 of these different weights. These are 22 millimeters long, and the diameter is 10 mil. Now what I had to do is I had to get my drill out with my 10 mil drill bit and ream it, because it's such a tight fit, and whether you put this together correctly or not, it's going to be a tight fit either way. And anyway, so I reamed them out a little bit. Now this is the point where you've got to be careful, because you might just drill right away through to the front of this and completely muck up all your work. So just be careful of that. Have some pliers handy, just in case they get put in and you can't get them out again. They're a tight fit. So these are the weights, and they say put 3 in for the prototype, so I take it's 3 for this as well. So that's now pushed home. The chances of getting them out again are pretty slim unless you've got a really strong magnet. I think they're steel, I'm not quite sure. So obviously we're now going to put this front cowl on. Now you've got to remember that you've got to add the propeller and the nut, retaining nut, and that tongue has got to go into the groove. Some say the male into the female. There you go. Now you can buy some fancy balancing hooks that look a little bit like this, and you sort of put it in the balance point. I mean, it's, you know, you have to be mission critical for me to buy one of those, but I might do one day. So that's your balance point. That to me looks about level and right. If anything, you want it slightly nose heavy. So now we're going to add on the propeller and the nut. And I've put those down somewhere and I've forgotten where I put them. Hang on a moment. Okay, I found the propeller. It wasn't as hard as I thought. I put things away and then I can't find them again, but this one I found. So the propeller is a 6x3 pitch. I was talking to some fella on Facebook. There's a Facebook page for the Vintage Model Company, should you want to have a look at it. And he said that what he did, he put a 6x6, I think, prop on. I've not seen one commercially available unless it's a grey one. There is a grey version of that. But I'm going to stick with this just for now because I did say I would go with the manual. So broadly speaking, once you're happy with the balance point, that is now complete apart from putting in the pilot. Let me go and get the pilot. Right, here's the pilot. So if you want to paint your pilot, the way I do it is I use oil paints and I paint the pilot usually first, and the reason for that is that it takes a few days for that oil paint to dry, and usually what I do is I paint on the oil paint fairly loosely. I get a washing up sponge, dry one, and just dabble it like that, and then I get a darker or mix a darker shade of the same colour and just fill in the creases, and I'll just dab it one more time, and then I, naturally I just use an even darker colour for the goggles straps and things, and then obviously acrylics for the goggles. Now if you want to go further with the goggles, you can get some stiff plastic, shape them and just lightly glue them in with wood glue, and that will give them a real nice goggly sort of shine. So that's my version of doing pilots, and I always stick them on a cocktail stick with some putty or what do you call it, plasticine or whatever. This stuff actually is at the kit. They ask you to use it for doing your C of G. So if those 3 rods are not heavy enough, you just add a bit of this. So he's now officially finished. What you can do is, when I was about to put this in, I suddenly realised I hadn't done the eyebrows, and you can just use a crayon, any type of crayon or a pencil, and you don't need to have a brush or anything. Just go like that, just put it on like that. You'll have people making videos about how to do all this stuff. It's not complicated, really. It's not. It's just a case of getting your hands dirty and having a go. So there you go. So your pilot goes in there. So don't forget that this will alter your C or G. A lot of people don't think about that. Okay, and we'll glue him in. They suggest that his shoulders should reach the edge of the cockpit, which I don't disagree with, but I kind of like it the way it is, so I'm going to leave it like that. So we're going to stick our fingers onto the balance points now where the stickers are, lift it up, and it's about right. It's about right. It wouldn't hurt to put a little bit of plasticine in perhaps, because you want it slightly nose heavy. Now there's one more thing we've got to do before we start thinking about flying and that, besides sticking down the pilot, and that is to balance the prop. So I'm going to put this all to one side, take this prop off. I'll just use some normal pliers. I've put my own nut on there because it just looks daft with that cone on. It really does. It's just, you don't want to do that. Not for the Barron. So I'm taking the nut off, putting my hand, cupping my hand beneath it, because no my luck, it'll shoot off underneath the bench, never to be seen again. And I shall put the Barron to one side there. Okay. And you can have a cup of tea. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Having a cup of tea. Cheers. Okay, balancing your prop. It's advisable to check it at least. So I have a prop balancer. I've had this a little while now. I can't remember how much I paid for it. It probably seemed expensive at the time, but I don't know. But this is my prop balancer, and you keep the instructions for that. And this all just comes together. There's your base and your locks. And this one's a Dubro True Spin Prop Balancer. So I'm going to have my cup of tea and I will put this together, and then I'll demonstrate the prop balancing. Okay, cheers. Well, once you've put your balancer together, it's going to look something like this. Now, what I tend to do, I say that a lot, don't I? What I tend to do, I get my level out and I just make sure it's level, so you know everything's good. And you put your prop into the prop adapter and you rest it on, and at first glance you think, oh, it's level, because you want it to be level. Give it a spin and eventually it will stop spinning, and one side of the prop will be down and one side of the prop will be up. There you go. So this side here is down. So you need to take a little bit of weight out of that side. Never do the leading edge, always do the trailing edge, and use a very fine glass paper, this is 800, and just rub it on the trailing edge like that, and you'll be surprised how little you need to take off. Like that. Put it on your spinner, give it a bit of a spin. There you go. Patience is a virtue. There you go. So that's the heavy end. And that's the end. I can see where I've rubbed it there. Take a bit more off. Try and do it the whole length if you can. It's not going to hurt it or make it weaker or anything like that. But it must be the trailing edge, never the leading edge. And I always do it on the inside that faces the fuselage so that you can't see the rubbing. Then just keep checking it. So just keep doing that until you got it balanced. I will balance it now. Okay, time for setting up. Now, you would have connected your battery. Well, actually, you would have turned your radio on first, then connected your battery. And we have to make sure the control surfaces are moving the correct way. So if I pull the stick back, let me just see if I can, yeah, I'm in shot. Pull the stick back, the elevator should raise, which then makes the nose go up. So pull the stick back, the elevator goes up. Push the stick forward, the elevator goes down. With the rudder, you should push the rudder to the right, and the rudder should move to the right. Push to the left, the rudder should move to the left. With the ailerons, if you want to turn right, the right hand aileron should go up and the left hand aileron should go down. So that's right, and that is now correct. Travelling left, the aileron goes up, which makes the airplane do this. Okay, and the right hand elevator should move down. So they're moving in the correct positions. I'm not going to try the prop because I know it's running in the right direction. This is just doing the control surfaces at the moment. Now, because you have no adjustment on this model, no physical adjustment, because normally you'd have a clevis and you just twist it in and adjust it. You can't do it that way. So you have to do it via the radio. Now, if you go by the instructions on page 64, it tells you the amount of travel you should have. So, just starting with the rudder, for example, I've got my ruler here, I'm putting it at the 10mm mark, and I know that that rudder's got to move 8mm either way, like that, which it does. Now to set that up, you find the rudder switch, which is here. So if I take that setting off, that will now move a lot. If I flick it back, it now moves very little. This is called Expo, and you'll find it on the menu of your particular radio. This is a Spectrum DX6i, and you will find it in the menu bar eventually. Now, to get this to move 6mm, I've had to go to the rudder and put in rudder 30%. Okay, then I click it, that's now saved. Now I've got to go to the elevator. There you go, there's the elevator. That's at the moment it's 60%. Now I've got to check that, and it says elevator 8mm up, 8mm down, measured at the trailing edge of the elevator. So this is the trailing edge. I'll put my ruler at 10 centimeters and check that, and that does, let's have a look. Yeah, that is about 8. You could probably got a little more down in it, but a little bit more down is a little bit more desirable. So now my Expo is set at 60% for the elevator, so that's correct. Now to the ailerons. Hang on, there you go. Click on the ailerons, and let's say, what does it say? 5mm up and 5mm down when measured at the narrowest inboard part of the aileron. So read that again. Ailerons 5mm up and down when measured at the narrowest inboard part of the ailerons. So what they mean is this part. So I'm now going to move the ailerons like this. Sorry, that's a lot. So I'm going to bring that down. At the moment they're set at 63, so I'm now going to bring that down to, let's have a look. I'll take it down to 40%. Let's see what it does now. Yeah, that's about right. So I will double check that. I've got to adjust this one anyway. So now I've got my Expo set, ailerons 40%, elevator 60%, rudder 30%. Okay, and I come out of that, save that, go back to list, and then go back to the main menu, and there we are. So that's all now set, and we're now going to check the propellers running the right way. So I'm just going to put a little bit of throttle on it at first to see the airflow's moving this way. Keep my head away from it, which it is. It's flowing the correct way. Now we're going to rev it up a bit. And that prop is nicely balanced. So we've got full throttle, it's turning the correct way. All of the surfaces are turning the correct way. if you want to take all those adjustments off, you just flick the switch. So that one's for elevator, that one's for aileron, that one's for rudder. I'm going to put them back into number 1 so they have the smallest of travel. And the reason we do that is, especially if you're doing a maiden, is that you have a tendency, you're a little bit nervous when you're trying to fly it, and if it goes a certain direction you try and overcorrect it, and if you've got too much travel it goes too much the other way, and therefore you start to lose control, and now you're fighting it to try and gain control again. This way you are actually being more gentle with it. So there we are. That's all set up for me. I'm just going to rearrange some of these things here, but apparently, you know, essentially that is set up and that's ready to go, and I think that will fly, and I think that's it really. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. There's your red Barron, it's all ready to go. Just make sure you put a fresh battery in when you come to do your maiden flight, and do all your pre-flight checks, make sure everything's working and in the right direction and everything else. Just do it again, and I would suggest of trying it in a field with long grass in it, because if it goes wrong it's going to have a nice soft landing, and you can figure out what went wrong and then correct it, and then hopefully on the same day you can fly it again and it'll be right. Take a little bit of putty or whatever you call this stuff that children use, just for a little added weight should you need it, and obviously some basic tools like your pliers so you can get your prop off and stuff like that. So fly safely, fly responsibly, and I do hope you found some enjoyment out of this, and I hope you found it to be informative. Thank you very much for watching. Good flying, good luck and good health. Thank you. Bye bye.